Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Immigration Talk Show. Really happy that you have joined us. I'm Napasa, and I'm going to be your host for this session that's lined up for you, and it's going to be a very interesting one. So please don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We're going to be right at it. But before that, I have this very important disclaimer, and that is by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. So, friends, thank you so much for joining us. We are streaming live right now on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and also on Instagram. So, please feel free to join us by commenting. And also, friends, I want to tell you that you can also be a part of the show. You can participate. And that is not just by commenting, but you can also call us by dialing this number 425-436-6335, and the access code is 988-888. So, friends, without further ado, please help me welcome none other than a very familiar face who makes it a point to be here almost every Wednesday. So, hi, Prashanthi. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here again.
Absolutely. Always nice. And I really look forward for Wednesday sessions with you. So, friends, do check her out. She is none other than Attorney Prashanthi Reddy from the law offices of Prashanthi Reddy. Well, very experienced, and she has been in the field of immigration since 1997. So it's really nice to have her here with us. So stay with us because this is going to be a continuation of a session we had last week about the general H1B registration FAQs that we have, and we're going to address them today. So, H1B registration and yes, what's going to happen after you get picked or if you don't get picked. So, yes, Prashanthi, thank you so much for joining us today. What can folks out there expect from this session today?
We'll go through some of the frequently asked questions with reference to registration because registration, opened up on the 7th and is closing very soon on Monday. So we'll go through some of those frequently asked questions. We started off with it last time, but we were not able to complete it. And we'll also, as usual, answer questions from the audience as well.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for that. And I can already see some of our folks joined us. Hi, Komal. Thank you so much for joining us. Please feel free to comment with your questions, and we are going to take them later in this episode. So, friends, I hope you're ready for this session. And because I totally am. And Prashanthi, are you ready to take up our questions now?
I am ready.
All right. So before that, though, do you have any updates? That's you maybe you would like friends to know out there because I hear so many news updates that even people with green cards are facing problem right now. When they want to re-enter the country. Is it true, especially for older citizens?
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, that was always the case. Um, if you were, if you are a parent who has a permanent resident status, and if you're spending most of your time outside the country and you're not actually maintaining your residence in the U.S., so a lot of children apply for their parents because they want them to stay with them, but it's not always how it works out. The parents are bored or whatever, so they end up spending a lot of time in their home country than in the US. So they don't maintain their residence in the US. And so when they're traveling, if you're going to be using your green card as a visitor's visa, then it's not going to work out. You have to be actually living in this country to have a green card.
Okay.
And in the past, maybe if they were a little bit more liberal about it, but even then, if you spent more than 6 months out of their outside the country, then you would not be eligible for citizenship. So that's a rule. Or if you spent more than a year out of the country on a green card, then you're not. When you're coming back, USCIS port of entry, they will trouble you because they will say that you have not maintained your permanent resident status. You're not maintaining your residence in the US. Um, so on that same premise, perhaps the at the port of entry POE, the officers are being more strict about allowing permanent residents to stay away for a long period of time and questioning them if they are frequently traveling or spending long duration of time outside the country, just to make sure whether they're maintaining the residence or not. And overall harassment has gone up at the port of entry, and this is just another example where that harassment is playing out. The parents of uh, the permanent resident parents of US
Mhm.
citizens, uh, are being harassed as well at the port of entry.
It's really sad, and I really hope that things will not be this way too much. But friends, I think it's always good to know your rights, know your stay updated. With its rules and regulations because they keep changing, and especially with administration change, nowadays we're always waking up to new news. So it's always best to stay updated. Thank you so much, Prashanti, for that. And we have RK and Jadhav join us. We are going to address your questions. Please stay with us. But now to answer, Prashanti, if you could tell us about the labor condition application, will it be required as a part of the electronic registration process? Are you able to? Okay.
No, the labor condition application is never needed before filing the H1B. But of course, it's important, as I said, to do some groundwork before you file your H1B registration. Um, so, in order to complete the electronic registration process, though, LCA is definitely not needed. But as I said, the members should strategize with their clients on whether or not to file an LCA before you file a registration. The only reason to file an LCA would be that, if it gets picked, then you're ready to file the H1B immediately. Though you have 90 days grace period to file the H1B, but there might be some instances where, maybe you're, need to file before, or in order to preserve the cap gap, if the person's OPT is expiring, maybe say on April 5th, then obviously you're not going to be able to file the LCA on April 1st, because it takes 7 business days for the LCA to get approved. So in that circumstances, maybe you want to just file the LCA and keep it in advance if there is some constraint of time and you have to file within a certain period of time. Um, and you also have to be aware that there might be delays with LCA processing if there are a lot of LCAs being filed at the same time. But generally, it takes 5 to 7 business days. So yeah, that is one reason why you might want to file, but it's not necessary to file before registration. For registration, you don't need the LCA. All you need is to fill out the registration form, which has basic information on it, and I think we kind of went through that a little bit last time. You have to fill out the name of the company, federal ID number of the company, the address, the main office address of the company, and the contact persons, signators, contact information, email address, phone number, etc. And then you need the beneficiary information, such as the passport ID. You'd need the beneficiary's name, their date of birth, and of course as I said, their passport number. So that's the basic information that's needed for H1B registration. LCA is not required.
There you go, friends. Thank you so much, Prashanti, for taking that up. And I do have more questions, but I think we should also address some of our viewers' questions. So let's take up RK's first. Hi, RK. Thank you so much for joining us on YouTube. It's always nice when you join us with your questions. So he's asking, are we seeing higher or lower registration for the lottery this year compared to previous years at this point in the registration process?
Well, we don't have any numbers. It's not like USCIS shares the numbers with us with reference to how many
Mhm.
registrations they are. At this point, they only do that after they close the registration. Then they tell us this many, that they received this many registrations, and then they picked this many registrations, etc. So as of now, and that comes much later. So as of now, we don't have any information as to how many registrations we have. But just based on hearsay, and based on logic, it looks like there'll be maybe less number of registrations this year, simply because two factors. One, the registration fee has gone up, and second, now, especially for consulting companies, you need contracts and POs. And so, unless people are serious and they have an actual job offer,
Hmm.
last year people filed speculatively. I mean, even if they didn't have a job offer, they would file the registration and then wait and see what happens. Now, I don't think that will happen anymore. People are trying to make sure that they have, documentation to show that there is a job in place, and then they're
Hmm.
filing. So from the consulting company point of view, there'll be less number of filings. Of course, your permanent employees like your TCS, Wipros. I mean, even though they're consulting companies, they have, always work available, and they have ongoing projects. So you're not going to see any. You might see some reduction there because the registration fee went up by 200%, but I don't think they will be affected much. And even your Amazons and your the big companies, uh, Apple, etc., Microsoft, I don't think you'll see a reduction in registrations with those big companies either. And they're the ones that take up most of the registrations. So, all in all, I think there might be some slight, is what I'm thinking,
Yes.
slight difference in the registrations, maybe a little less, but that's good for people who have bona fide job offers for their employees, because then especially people working on F1, especially, etc., the chances the so you should definitely apply this year, because pick then will be higher. Instead of being 25 to 30%, maybe it'll be 40%. Let's wait and see, but that's
Hmm.
that's my take on the situation. But I have heard, I
Absolutely.
mean, I've been reading, the Economic Times in Hyderabad has reported, and Hyderabad is a big hub for registrations. They've
Yes.
reported that there are less registrations this year because of this, because the frivolous registrations, the people who are taking money and filing for registrations and finding people jobs. So the fraud registrations will definitely go down. And we don't know what percentage of registrations are really those kind of registrations, frivolous registrations, but those will definitely that the number of registrations have gone down. At least we don't know
Yes.
whether it's that kind of registrations or all registrations, but we have seen that that's what the Economic Times has reported.
That's so true. And, we also have been reporting even the same news and many others. I think that could be one of the reasons, because now, I mean, companies will think before spending that much amount of money. It's no more $10, it's like 215. It's really huge, the whole hike altogether, even for big companies. So probably, well, you never know. It's a little early to say. Not really very early, because we just have a couple more days, right? And that too, like, I think only
Yes,
working
yes.
days
But
are
then it's
counted.
early because you don't know. Yeah, it's early because you don't know what the final registration numbers will be even after the registration is over, until USCIS
Mhm.
actually discloses that. So it's some ways for that to happen. Um, so they will, of course, announce that the cap is reached. I am not expecting the cap will not be reached. That there's only a 1% chance of that happening. So the demand is still high. But the other thing is that there'll be less duplicate registrations. We've seen that even last year, that there were less duplicate registrations. So overall, there were about 400,000 plus registrations. So let's see this year whether it'll be 300 or whether it'll still be 400 or it'll be 250. We have to wait and see.
Yes, we will. I think that's all we can do right now, friends. We'll have to wait. And thank you so much, RK, for asking your question. Let's see. We'll have to wait. There's not many days left, so just have to be a little more patient. But otherwise, yes, let's go on to take up another question. And Webhav, sorry, you can call us. You can call us on this number 425-436-6335, and the access code is 988-888. So also we have Kunal and Jadav. So let's take up Kunal's question quickly and then head on more. So if my H1B registration is selected in the lottery, what are the immediate next steps? Do I prepare for the filing process and what documents are crucial at this stage?
The immediate next step is to file the labor condition application. Your employer has to file the LCA. The LCA takes about 5 to 7 business days to get approved. And once that is approved, then you have to file your H1B petition within the 90-day window. The H1B
Mhm.
registration notice, the approval notice that you've been selection notice that you've been selected in the lottery, will actually have uh, the last date within which you have to file, and we'll also have the address where the H1B has to be sent out, and you have to attach that along with your H1B petition. In order to file the H1B petition, once the LCA is approved, you have to submit your I-129, all the forms required. You have to pay the appropriate fee. You have to submit company documents. Like I said, you have to show that the company actually requires your service, whether it be a consulting company or some other company. If it's a consulting company, then in order to show that your service is required, you'll have to submit POs and work orders, MSAs. If it's another kind of company where you're working in house, you're working directly for the company, and you will not be placed at a client site, then you'll have to show that the volume of the business, there is sufficient volume of business to require them to hire you. And that could be shown through a tax return, through general contracts that the company has with their clients,
Mhm.
a detailed, maybe a description from petitioner showing, why they need you. Um, so these are all documents and information that can be submitted to show that there's a bona fide and valid job requirement. In addition, you would have to show, if you are in the US, of course, you have to show proof of your status. That's your I-94. You have to show your previous I-797 approvals, if you have any from the USCIS. You have to show of course, you have to have a valid passport. And, you have to have educational documentation. And if you don't have a job, then you'll have to but if you have work experience that's related, you need to get a work experience evaluation done. And that you might be better off doing that ASAP, because evaluation companies are usually busy during the cap season, and they sometimes can take time to give you your evaluation back. So
Mhm.
better do that later, and then they'll charge an expedite, and then that increases your cost. So you better do that later rather than better do that sooner rather than later. And then if you have a foreign degree, also you need to get an evaluation done. And so, again, you'll have to reach out to those evaluation companies to get that done. Otherwise, you'd have to submit your degree copies. Make sure you have the actual degree copies and not the provisionals. Make sure you have your transcripts or mark sheets to submit along with the degree copies. And, those are that you will need getting your H1, and that's the process.
Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking that up. And I'm so happy to tell you that Webhav has also joined us. Thank you so much, Webhav, for joining us. So, hi, where have you joined us from? Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, thank you. This is Vaibhav here. I'm joining from Dallas. Am I audible?
Prashanthi, is
Yes,
it good enough?
yes, yes. I can hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Okay. First of all, thank you. For entertaining me. So my question is regarding the RFC approval chances in general. So I received an RFC like few days back, which we replied to it. The RFC was regarding specialty occupation and maintenance of status. Regarding specialty occupation, we provided a detailed job description where we show that it requires at least a bachelor degree in computer science along with an expert opinion letter on why a bachelor's degree is required to complete this particular job description in computer science or a related field. So that's the expert opinion letter we provided. We have shown that it is an entry level one, wage level one position. And to meet that criteria, we even showed that it follows three of the four educational requirements for specialty occupation. So, and we were not even provided some university postings on why a bachelor's degree is required for that particular position, along with uh, an ex-employee's job profile who was my predecessor. I took over his role and we showed his LinkedIn profile where it showed that he has a degree in computer science as well. And regarding maintenance of status, that's was surprising that we got that RSC because I had found the job within 60 days and they had even sent their H1B package within 60 days. So they're asking for pay slips for that 60-day grace period, but I wasn't there. I wasn't working, so there were no pay slips. We still provided the latest pay slips and the termination letter date. So based on all this information provided, how do my H1B approval chances look?
It really depends on the job title, which is the you gave me all the information except that. So, what was the job title used for the when the
Oh,
H1
sorry.
was filed?
So the job title used was BI
Sorry,
Administrator. It falls under BI Analyst role.
DI
AI
administrator.
AI administrator.
Yeah, and it's
BI.
BI,
What's
Business
BI?
Intelligence
Oh,
Administrator,
What
BI.
is that?
and it follows under BI
BI.
Analyst SOC code.
BI. Okay, so your whole problem is uh, uh, by the
BI
under what
Analyst
under
SOC
what
code. Business
SOC code
Intelligence
did you
Analyst
file?
SOC code.
A BI analyst, business intelligence analyst.
I don't remember the SOC
Okay,
code. Yeah,
so the
BI
whole
Analyst.
reason is because of the
Go ahead,
okay.
Prashanthi.
So the whole reason for getting the RFE, the whole reason for getting the RFE is the job title that you used. BI analyst job title. You are certain to get an RFE, almost certain. So this is easily predictable. So it's always important to use to be aware of what job titles to use, and if to know that if you use a certain job title, you're likely to get an request for further evidence. So no matter what evidence you provide, if the industry standard shows that business intelligence analyst in general doesn't require a bachelor's degree in a specific field or requires a bachelor's degree in, say, a general field and not a specific field, or doesn't, or an associate's degree, person with an associate degree or a degree is not required at all for the position by a majority of the employers, then no matter what information you provide, the H1 may not get approved. Again, it's based on a case by case basis. So it's not, of course, you have to respond well and you have to respond in detail, um, showing the complexities of the job, looking at each job and saying why that, analyzing each job and job description and showing why that particular job cannot be done without a bachelor's in computer science, and showing how the your job is, of course, related to the position mentioned. So all that has to be mentioned, but the main thing is to go to, I mean, they look at the Occupational Outlook Handbook. So I'm not sure if the Occupational Outlook Handbook has that particular job title in it, because some job titles are not there. But if there is a BI analyst job title, and if it says clearly that most employers require a bachelor's degree in computer science, then you should be okay by providing all this information. If it has information which is contradictory to that, or if there is no information at all, then it becomes an uphill task. Then you really have to provide that information showing that in the industry, most employers require a bachelor's degree in computer science. And you also have to show that complexity write up, showing very clearly that the job description requires or why it requires a bachelor's in computer science. I hope that is useful. And with reference to maintenance of status, if it's your 60 days grace period, um, a question of 60 days grace period, and if you're able to show that you file within the 60 days based on your pay stubs, then I think that's a non-issue with reference to maintenance of status.
Perfect. Thank you. Can I have a follow-up question on this?
Quickly, please, Vaibhav. It'll be good if it'll be.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So, like I said, right, so we did provide university postings where it shows that a computer science degree is required, along with an expert opinion letter on why the job description that we provided requires a computer science degree or a related field. And the opinion letter is
That those two
validated,
by itself,
shows
those
that
two,
each of them.
those two documents by itself. Vaibhav, let me interrupt you for a minute. Those two documents by itself is not sufficient, or is not. It's not necessary that you'll get a batch. That you'll get the approval based on those two documents. An expert opinion letter, though, is good. USCIS has often denied cases, even though you have an expert opinion letter saying that a bachelor's degree is required, because most you can get an expert opinion letter for most positions, which USCIS will dispute, saying that a bachelor's degree is required, right? So and just university postings may not be enough. You have to do um, postings from Dice, Monster, and you have to show that the companies that are posting this are similar to the company that's hired you with nature of business and with reference to the size of the company. So that's my comment on those two things that you just mentioned.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you so much, Weber, for your questions and for participating. And I hope that you resonated. Do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We are at Immigration Talk Show, and you can also contact Attorney Prashanthi Reddy yourself. I mean, maybe have a one on one consultation, it'll be better. And you can email her or call her on her number. Her number is 212-354-1010, and her email address is prashanthi@readyesq.com. And thank you, Webhub, once again. Also, friends, you too can join us just like Webhub has just done. So all you have to do is dial this number, which is displayed on the screen, 425-436-6335, and the access code is 988-888. So yes, that said, Prashanti, thank you so much for taking that up very patiently. So
You're
let's
welcome.
go on. I mean, how long will the registration filing window remain open? We all know this by now, but still.
um, so let's see if there's something that they don't know. I mean, obviously it's March 24th, which all of you will know. And USCIS has indicated that all registrations submitted during that period will be included in the lottery, which you all know. And if they receive more than enough registrations to meet the numerical limitation, then they will hold a lottery. Um, and also, of course, they recommend that you don't file it in the last minute, because we always see, and this you may not know, that there is some issue or the other with the registration portal in the last few days, especially on Monday. For sure, you will have issues on the 24th. In the past, when the submissions of registrations in the last days, they have always extended the period of registration. They did that last year. They did that, I believe, the year before. They've extended it by
Yeah,
1 or 2 days. Will they extend it
I remember.
this year as well? I think if they have issues with the portal, they might. The other thing that you may not know is the government shutdown. Um, Hopefully, that will not happen now. But if something does happen, then they did already say that
Yeah.
registrations will not be affected by the possible government shutdown. But I think that has been averted now. So hopefully that is taken care of. Yeah. So that's the response.
Thank you. Thank you so much. But friends, it's always best to not wait till the last moment. Wait not till the 24th. Maybe finish it this week itself by Friday, because we just have a couple more days. Or yes, I would say so. 2 more days to really count. I don't think Saturday and Sunday counts, right, Prashanthi?
Uh, I mean, yeah, you can file it on Saturday and Sunday, uh,
Okay,
but you'd have to file it by Monday. So you can, if
okay.
if you're working, then you. I mean, the problem is it's a holiday for most offices, but I think the registration window will remain open.
Will remain open. Okay, so it doesn't go by working days or business days. All right, that's all for the registration filing window. So Also, Prashanti, if suppose somebody has submitted the registration, can they edit a registration after it has been submitted?
Once a registration has been submitted, it cannot be edited. However, the system permits you um, system permits you to delete the registration if needed, without impacting the registrations of other beneficiaries that you might have in the same batch. So registrations can be deleted, but of course, if you delete it after March 24th, then I mean, you cannot delete it after March 24th. So you can only delete it before March 24th, and then you can reapply before March 24th, before the window is closed. After March 24th, you will not be able to, the delete action will be disabled. You will not be able to delete. So if there's something wrong with your registration, or if you've done a duplicate registration, make sure you delete it before, March 24th. And if there is or before 12 o'clock March 24th, and you might, if there's a mistake, then you might be able to reapply if you do that before the deadline.
Okay, and what about adding beneficiaries? I mean, can once you submit a registration, can you later add more beneficiaries if it is still within the registration period?
Yes, absolutely. You can submit several batches of registrations. It's not that you're allowed only one batch. I think there is a limit of each batch, which is about 200 applicants, if I'm not mistaken, or 250. I don't remember. I think it's 250 registrations per batch is allowed. But if you have more registrations to submit, then you can do that in a second batch, as long as you do it before the registration period gets over.
Okay. All right. So, Prashanti, I mean, related to this, is there like a limit on the total number of beneficiaries? You said 200. I mean, but then what about the prospective petitioner? How many can they really register?
The petitioner, there is no limit to how many registrations a petitioner can file, but I would caution you on not filing frivolous registrations, because if you get picked and then you don't apply for the H1, USCIS might take some action. They have not done it so far, but they have said that they could. Um, they want to make sure that it's not frivolous, that you had an actual job offer when you file the registration. So, might make sense to take an employment agreement or some kind of an agreement from the person that before you register the registration for them, to show that the offer was valid, right? So that might be a good idea to do. But you can file any number of registrations. It's just that you have to file a batch of 250 at a time. You can't file more than 250 at a time. But additional beneficiaries can be added to subsequent registration um, from the same petitioner. But I've always noticed that the more registrations you file, the percentage of the pick rate seems to get lower and lower. I don't know how they do this, what algorithm they have, but we know that these big companies file thousands of registrations. Um, they file quite a few at least. And so their algorithm usually, if the average algorithm pick rate is about 30%, maybe their pick rate will be 15%. I've always noticed that, so something to keep in mind.
Thank you so much, Prashanti, for taking that up as well. So I think we should now address some of our viewers' questions. Let's take up Jadhav. So sorry, Jadhav, for keeping you waited. If I'm registered for the H1B lottery, but there are issues with my employer's paperwork or qualifications, what are the potential consequences? Can my application be denied before it even gets selected?
So here, if we're talking about the registration, yeah, if the registration is not done correctly, then the registration uh, can be even after getting submitted. So first of all, the registration may not even take place, and you'll get an alert that the registration was not done. But even after the registration was submitted, sometimes it takes time for the problems to arise. For example, most often it is the pay problem. So the USCI, the fee, the 215 fee might get rejected by your bank if you're using a credit card or if you're using ACH payment. And that could take a few days for that to happen. And then the registration can get denied based on that. And so denied registration will not be put into the selection process, means which means that it will not be put into the lottery.
Mhm.
No chances of you getting selected in the lottery, right? So yes, absolutely.
Right.
It could be any reason, could be some technical glitch as well that the submission that does not get submitted. So you have to always make sure that you, uh, first of all, do the submission as early as possible, so that if there are any issues with payment, they come up before the last day, and you're able to resubmit the application. Or if even if there are any technical issues, or for example, if your passport is not valid, um, and for that reason your registration is not accepted, you are able to take care of all those issues.
Right. Right. Thank you so much. And Jadhav, I hope you've gotten your answer. Thank you so much for asking. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't as yet already. And now let's take up another one. This is Anusha. Anusha is asking, can you explain the implications of the USCIS's new felt memo on H1B petitions?
I think the new field memo is no longer applicable because they have new H1B regulations in place. So you have to actually look at the new H1B regulations and see what the implications are there. So there's no employer-employee relationship issues anymore. There's no right to control issues anymore. But and they've said that in the new regulation. But they have said that there has to be a bona fide job offer, and that is part of the new film memo to a certain extent. But they have said that they will not you do not require an itinerary, but they do want to see that there is some kind of a bona fide job available at the time of filing, though they're not going to they're not going to ask you an itinerary for each day that the person is working for the entire duration of the period that you're applying for, but they still want to see at least some availability of job for the person, even if it be for 1 month or 3 months. They have not said that they will give a reduced period on the H1. They will give the full 3 years period as per the new H1B regulation. But of course, that could be interpreted differently by the new administration. They have said that there'll be stricter vetting, more RFEs. So we have to wait and see how that goes and how they're going to interpret the new regulations.
Absolutely, and it's we can already see a lot of stricter rules making vetting. I mean, the process even longer. There has been a lot of vetting, so we'll just have to be a little more patient. Let things settle down, maybe, and then we would know what's going to happen. But there's not much time to wait anymore since the registration period is on, and we just have until the 24th of March, 2025, 12 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you, Anusha, for asking your question. Now let's go on to Priya. Hi, Priya. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. Priya is asking, how does the USCIS evaluate the specialty occupation requirements for H1B petitions, particularly for occupations that might not be explicitly listed in the OOH, or for positions that require specialized knowledge or skills that are not readily available in the US labor market?
Well, talking about the last part first, um, H1B is not based on whether that position is readily available or what specialized knowledge or skills they have. It's not based on that. H1B is available for anyone who has a job in a specialty occupation, and a specialty occupation is defined as an occupation that requires a bachelor's degree in a specific field. It's as simple as that. So if the job requires a bachelor's degree in arts or a bachelor's degree in just engineering without being a specific field of engineering, they will most probably say that it's not a bachelor's degree. Or if the job requires a bachelor's degree in business administration without actually saying specifically what field of business administration. If it's a general business administration degree, then it's most likely not will not be a specialty occupation. To just give you an example, a CFO or an administrative position, a CEO, maybe CFO will, because that requires a bachelor's degree in finance at least. But like a CEO or manager level position, they don't make for good H1B specialty occupation positions, even though you might think that they would because they're senior positions. Since a bachelor's degree in a specific field is not required for these positions in general, or maybe required, which is not specific, they're not good specialty occupation or H1B positions. And you often get RFEs for these positions. Similarly, even if it's not mentioned in the OH, for example, a nurse. You would think a nurse is a highly specialized field, but in the industry in general, whether the OH mentions it or not, we know that in order to get a license for a nurse, only an associate's degree is required. A bachelor's degree is not required. So this position is not H1B a specialty occupation position, and it's very difficult to get a H1B approved for a nurse's position unless they are a specialized nurse or an advanced practice nurse. So just giving you some examples of where there are problems so that you understand this better. And there could be any position. There could be a position that the employer made up, which is not at all, a job title that is frequently used. So then what you need to do is really hash out the job description, give detailed description of the job, and give an explanation of the complexity of the job, and give a detailed analysis of why that particular job requires a person who has a bachelor's degree in that specific field. That's how you have to do it. And you should do this beforehand, not wait for that RFE, because certain positions you will get an RFE. So, I mean, we usually do this in the petitioner letter, or, we get an expert opinion evaluation done at the time of filing the petition itself. So, that's a good strategy to have. And of course, detailed job description is very important, and a detailed
They
description of the complexities of the job.
Yes, yes. Very true. The job description is very important. So thank you so much, Priya, for asking that. And thank you, Prashanthi, for highlighting, the importance of the job description. It should be very well explained. You do not want too many questions on job description, at least. So, yeah, let's take up some more questions. And we have some of our Facebook group questions. So, Control, I request you to please display them on the screen. Let's start with this anonymous member asking, I need to transfer my H1B to a new employer. I got offer, but a new employer university is saying that they have filed for something called the prevailing wage PA, and it will take around 9 months for approval. My current job is ending soon. Any suggestion on this is greatly appreciated.
Uh, so yes, I don't know why they're not using the prevailing wage um, that is already available. I mean, there are two ways of finding what the wage is. You can do a private wage survey, or you can do just go to flca.com, the FLCA website, which is the Department of Labor website, where they have wages listed from 1 to 4, level 1 to level 4, for various job positions. Or they can ask for the Department of Labor to give you a prevailing wage, in which case it does take about 6 to 8 months, which is what you're talking about. But I'm not sure why they're using this route, which is the longest route possible. Maybe the wage that they see on the DOL website is too high. If that is the case, then they should maybe use a private wage survey, which is acceptable to USCIS, and maybe it won't take that long. But again, that's expensive. So perhaps that's why they're using this route. But this is not the best route to use because of the time that it takes. And even if they use this route and if they get a wage level, it could be the same wage level that's mentioned on the FLCA website, on the DOL website, and that's not going to help, right? So I'm not quite sure why they're asking for a prevailing wage in this situation.
Right. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, though, for taking this up. An anonymous member, if you're watching us, I would, suggest to contact Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. Maybe give her more details about your case, and you can email her at prashanthi@readyesq.com. So yeah, now let's go on to this next one. Another anonymous member asking, "Hi friends, I'm transferring the H1B to new employer and I-797 is approved. And can I travel to India and re-enter USA on my current employer valid visa stamp, as I have not yet left the current company?"
No, you shouldn't be doing that. If you have already transferred and the new H1B is approved, you should be moving to your new employer. And I mean, that's the last action rule, that you start working for the new company once you get the approval. Um, and if you leave and come back and you re-enter with your current employer, then you will be working for the current employer. So you can't now go back and work for the new employer. I mean, switching in between employers without getting a H1B petition approved, I mean, it's a gray area. I know some attorneys will say that you can switch between employers. USCIS has not actually uh, clarified this point. Um, but I usually suggest not to do that because it makes things confusing for the officer as to which employer you're working for. For example, if you get a FDNS site visit after the approval, which sometimes happens, and you're not working for that company, they might be confused as to why you're not working there. So don't have too many H1 approvals floating around. File a transfer only if you plan to work for that company. Otherwise, file the H1 for consular processing.
Right. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking that up. And thank you, anonymous member, for your question. This next one is asking, "Hi, I got laid off a few days back and actively looking for new positions. In the meantime, I'm looking for some advice and options from experienced people in this group. I have few days left in my 150 days of unemployment during STEM OPT. This is the last chance of H1B lottery, but unfortunately, as I don't have any active employer, I might not be able to register for H1B lottery this year. So, what are the options that I have now?"
Okay, so they're on STEM, they're on F1 OPT, and they got laid off, and they have some days left, and because you're allowed some period of unemployment on STEM OPT. Um, yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do if you don't have an employer. You definitely cannot file for a registration, but that's not your immediate issue. The other problem might be just maintaining your status. Uh, I mean, the only option you have is then to change status from F1 to a different status. Maybe you want to continue in your F1 status by taking additional courses, by joining, a master's program or something of that nature, if you want to, if you think that's useful for you. Or you might want to change your status to a visitor's visa, which will give you some temporary respite, but that's not a permanent solution for you. Um, yeah, I mean, so these are the only two options you have, unless, or you can leave the country and come back, uh, on a new H1 whenever you have employment. If you belong to Canada or Mexico or Australia, you might have other options, but if not, these are the only options you have.
There you go. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking this up as well. Let's go on to this next one. Questions on re entering the USA and with less than 60 days validity of H1B stamp. I'm planning to return to USA mid-April while my H1B stamp on passport expires first week of June. I have I-797 valid until 2027 and I-94 valid until 2027. Has anyone heard anything about re entering the US with less than 60 days of validity in H1B stamp?
There shouldn't be a problem, but of course, every time you leave and re-enter, it's up to the port of entry, the officer there, to CBP to decide whether they want to allow you in or not, and that decision is not appealable. And with under the present administration, of course, we know that a lot of people are being harassed, non-immigrants are being harassed, sometimes for no reason at all. Technically, your visa is valid until the date that it expires. So even if there's one day left on your visa, you will be allowed back into the country. And especially because you have H1B validity, and in order to work in the US, you don't need visa validity, you need a H1B validity. So when you enter, the I-94 is given not based on the visa validity period, but based on your I-797 validity period. So that's what they should be looking at. So they should give you an I-94 upon arrival until the validity of your I-797, which is 2027.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking that up as well. Now we got another one. This is urgent help. I have drop appointment next week, travel planned for this weekend. My stamping is in the same category visa, expired within 12 months. Indian citizen, so ideally it's satisfying all the Dropbox criteria. However, my last stamping was done outside India, same category visa. Has anyone gone through some situation, the same situation? May have any issue with the Dropbox appointment recently? Kindly advise.
Well, you should remember that the Dropbox or the interview waiver policy is discretionary. So they can always call you in for an interview, put you in administrative processing to, find out more information. And they do that often, even with Dropbox appointments. But you do qualify, obviously, for the Dropbox. So there is a preliminary qualification requirement which you meet. So it's difficult to say whether you'll get your visa through this process, or they'll call you in for an interview, or they'll have administrative processing. Some people prefer to have an in-person interview because at the Dropbox they don't really allow you to submit much documentation, and if you don't submit all the documentation and they need more, then they do put you into administrative processing for us to ask for the additional documents. So sometimes people prefer to just do an in-person uh, interview so that they can submit all the documents, in one step and not go through administrative processing. Because if you go through that, then the processing time for that is pretty long, and there's a lot of uncertainty there. So that's what I have to say with reference to Dropbox.
Well, thank you so much, Prashanthi. And I hear that, even the time period has reduced by completely half, right? I mean, earlier 48 months and now it's 12 months, right?
Correct. Yes, yes.
Right. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking that up as well. And if we have more questions, control. Or I think those were it from our Facebook groups. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for addressing them very, very patiently. And I still have more questions, but if you could, tell us, suppose an employer submits multiple beneficiaries, let's say 10 names per registration, and later identifies that the employer needs to withdraw one of those 10 names. Does the system force the employer to withdraw all 10 names that had been submitted in that registration? Maybe requiring the employer to resubmit the 9 names that it did not desire to withdraw from the registration system?
No,
Or
you can. No, there's a maximum of 250 that you can. No, actually, if you're deleting a registration, you could do that. That one particular registration, it does not affect the rest of the registrations in the batch. So the rest of the registrations stay the same. You can just delete that, one registration, and that one registration will be given a separate confirmation number. So yeah, you can just click delete on that particular beneficiary's registration without affecting the other ones.
okay. All right. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for addressing these frequently asked questions, especially with regard to H1B registration. Since it is the registration time period and it's still on, I'm sure many people out there had some questions, and thank you for clearing out many doubts as well, Prashanthi. But before we leave today, do you have any additional information that you want to share with all our viewers who are watching us right now?
I guess the only thing that I want to reiterate is make sure that you file your registration on time. Um, be aware that multiple registrations are fine as long as there's no collusion, meaning that a beneficiary can file multiple registrations. But again, you know that it's a beneficiary centric registration, which means that no matter how many registrations you file, you'll only be put into the lottery once. For those petitioners out there, if you have several companies, sister concerns, or related companies that are filing for the same beneficiary, you can do so, but note that the job offer has to be completely different for each beneficiary. And note that you might get an RFE saying that there is collusion, and you have to then show that the job offer is completely different.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for joining us today. And I'm sure this was very, very insightful and very beneficial for all our audience out there. So thank you once again. And I'm really thankful to all you folks out there who joined us, because it was a good turn up. And Web have also joined us on call. Thank you so much, Vaibhav, and also to RK, Komal. Komal did not have any questions, but I was so glad you joined us. First person to join us. And Vaibhav also says thank you, by the way. And to all you viewers, also Priya, then we had Anusha, Jadhav. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel. It is at Immigration Talk Show. We are not just on YouTube, but you could also check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and also Instagram. So once again, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Prashanthi. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
And folks, you can also contact Attorney Prashanthi with your questions, and maybe you want to have a one-on-one consultation. Go contact her. Her number is 212-354-1010, and her email address is prashanthi@readyesq.com. And definitely go visit www.readyesq.com, to get to know more about Attorney Prashanthi Reddy and the law offices of Prashanthi Reddy. So thank you once again, friends, and stay tuned on Immigration Talk Show, because we have a lot more updates coming up, and also a very interesting session called Daily Immigration Dose, where I and my co-host Sam join in to have various discussions. And today as well, we are going to do the same at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So bye for now. Have a great day ahead, and yeah, this is Nipas.